Bonjour, c'est Gabrielle. Today we are in a cafe at Toronto in North York, so it's kind of uptown of Toronto. And I thought that I would get the chance today to talk about the differences that I feel since arriving for a few days in this area and in this country, and how it really is very different from living in Paris or living in France. Thank you. Merci. Thank you. I said merci because we just came back from Montreal, and in Montreal it's true that I talk a lot to them in French, and then here it's mostly English speaking. Right now we're in North York, as I mentioned, in the uptown area of Toronto, and I feel like there's a lot of like Asian places, a lot of like Korean small stores of bingsu and supermarkets. This relates to my first point, which is actually the multicultural atmosphere that I feel like in Canada so far. Not to say that Paris is not multicultural, it is. But I feel like here it's like really separated into areas in the city, which I feel like in Paris it's more mixed. Like, yes, there's maybe an area that's a little bit more Asian influence or African influence, but it's still really mixed. And here it's like very separate. And also the thing about suburban living, I never really experienced before coming here because I grew up in like big cities in Asia, or now I currently live in Paris, sharing to you my life in Paris. Just everything is so central. The transportation system is so good. And here everyone has a car. Everyone has to drive to do anything. I'm currently like staying in a place not so far from here, and just to have a coffee we need like a 10-minute car ride, or if we wanted to walk it would take like 45 minutes to an hour. So I guess it's just like a very different style of living and notion of daily activities. Like, people, when they want to go to a good boulangerie or bakery, they have to take their car, or when they want to go to a nice cafe, or when they want to study or go to the gym. I think most of my friends and people I know in France like don't necessarily have a car, unless like if you want to like road trip out, or if you want to use cars you usually rent them during your holidays. But all my friends right now living in Paris, we all don't need a car necessarily. Related to the transportation, I would say it's like the urban sprawl, meaning that the city is just so spread out. Like, I knew that, we have greater Paris and like small Paris. Like, I felt like that was already big, but after being in Toronto for a few days, it's just so like such a big city that's spread out. So even to meet a friend or someone, you would need to take your car for like half an hour, or to go to downtown, like sometimes you need an hour or two. Yesterday I met up with a friend that came from like the northern part of the city, and she told me that the transportation system is not the best here. So if she missed one of her trains, she would have to wait an hour to get the next train. And this is when I realized that sometimes in France we complain about like delays with trains, but the transportation and train system is so good, so much better. Like, I go to Lyon to see my grandmother every month, and I only take 2 hours to go from Paris to Lyon, direct train, and I can go from my home to her home in like 3 hours and have dinner with her. And here from Montreal, it took 5.5 hours, and also to see a friend sometimes it takes an hour to go meet with them. So the urban part of the city is very different. And I would say like the biggest difference so far is just the overall feeling. I'm really glad also I get to experience both Toronto and Montreal to see different sides of Canada, and I know there's so much more to see, which will probably be for another time as a road trip. But it's just the overall feeling. Like, I feel like it's very urban, and I feel like it's just everything is very spread out. I feel that like here neighborhoods are like very distinct. Like I was mentioning, like there's the like Asian part, there's a place that really feels exactly like China, there's a place that feels exactly like India, and I would say that the neighborhoods are just so like distinct, like so separated, and it's less blended together, which can be a good thing because it means that when you're searching for something specific, like we were really craving some good dim sum, we went like directly into the China neighborhood area. But if you want to go to another place, like you have to take your car and drive there. So I think I really like that about like Paris, is that like I feel like things are a lot more mixed and less distinct, and the whole transportation thing is definitely something that I think aligns more to my way of living. Not that I don't like taking the car, but I feel like I would want to be in a city where it's very walkable, cyclable. Like you can walk to places, you can bicycle to places. You don't always have to rely so much on your car. It's good to live in a city where transportation is very good. What's also really great, I would say, about Canada is like the access to nature. I think the access to like national parks, to nature, even like from Toronto going to Niagara Falls, like it's really amazing. Depending on where you are in France, like usually the access to nature is not as easy, but then when you compare like the size of the country, if you had a car somewhere, it's also accessible. But here definitely like the nature is very present, and after having spent a few days in Montreal, I feel like it's a city that really has a lot of nature present in it. But definitely every city, you know, has different things. Like in Paris right now, I feel like it's just so rich in culture, in art, which is not the feeling that I currently have in Toronto. I know that if I spent more time here, I would probably go to the modern art museums or check out some galleries via car again. But in Paris, you can just walk in any street, you can explore it by yourself, and you come across so many hidden gems, which is brings me a lot more ideas of content and videos that I really want to shoot when I'm in Paris, because I think there's so much to share about the culture there. And here it's more about like the activities and the people you have. So I would say I came here like visiting friends, which was really amazing to be able to meet up and catch up with friends and spend time with them. But a lot of our activities like relied around like brunch, food, cafes. It was less about like going to a park or like going to a museum, writing, drawing. It was more, a lot of activities have been related to food, which is why like right now I need a smoothie. I'm not having all those macchiatos with extra caramel, sugar, spice anymore, because I think my body needs a little bit of a cleanse. But yeah, overall, I would say I really like enjoy my time here. But it also makes me see things differently than when I was living in Paris, and makes me really appreciate my life there at the moment. And for Montreal, that's for another video coming very soon, where I'm going to share my thoughts about what I thought about being in Montreal and how surprised I was on so many things. So that's going to be coming very soon. Just the overall feeling is that I feel like Toronto is like very vibrant and like also a very modern city that has a lot of distinct neighborhoods. And Paris is more like rich about culture, more about like the finer details in life and tradition and enjoying the day to day. And I feel like in Canada, like even as someone who's coming to visit and coming as a tourist, I feel that there's more of like a bit of like a hustle culture here. Like people, they plan out their day like by hours. It revolves a lot around work. Like if you just look at the work hours in France, it's 35, and here it's like 40 hours to 45 hours. And yeah, I guess a lot of people kind of spend their like 5-day work week just mainly focusing on work, and then the weekends perhaps going to a cafe or a brunch. But I can definitely feel the energy, a bit of the like hustle culture is very present. Not to say that it's not in Paris. You know, a lot of people, we all work very, very hard, but the way we work is a little different. Like we enjoy a lot our lunch breaks. You know, we have 2-hour lunch breaks. We have apéro, which is an after work drink that we have after work. And then in the evening, we have like late dinners, which last a long time. Here, I feel like I've been in this cafe and I've like seen people like come and go, and also I can feel like it's more rushed. And the takeout culture, like regarding food, there's so much takeout here. I didn't know it was a thing. Like when you go to the restaurant, like I knew you can take out like McDonald's and fast food, but even simple things, you know, like smoothies or like ice cream or like bagels or sandwiches, like it will one of the first thoughts that happened to my friend was like to take it in the car, to have it in the car to go. Like I would say French people, our very first thought is like to sit for a long while, catch up over like one ice cream, one coffee, and really take our time, like take our sweet time, which, you know, I think makes us have a more slower paced living and enjoy like these small things much more than just, you know, taking things to go, grabbing it in the car and then eating it in the car. Yeah, eating in the car was also a first for me in Canada. Donc ça, c'était très marrant. It was very interesting. And it will remain in my memory, all this like to-go, takeaway culture and the diversity in the food. I've had so much stuff, heavy things, very delicious but heavy things with a lot of sugar. And I feel like we eat a lot in France, but it's just very well balanced. Like there's like a lot of vegetables, there's a lot of fruits, and also just maybe our style of living of like walking a lot everywhere and kind of paying attention to our physical health, doing sports. But here, yeah, the stuff I've been eating with some friends and by myself has felt much heavier. But I know that, you know, you can have a healthy diet here. You probably need to cook like a lot at home though, because eating out, everything is so tempting and I want to try everything, but then not for my diet, pas pour ma diète. So overall, yeah, it was super interesting, I think, being here for a few days and experiencing all these different things and comparing it with la vie à Paris, life in Paris, et la vie en France. And thank you so much for all the recommendations, les suggestions dans les commentaires. If you have some more suggestions, feel free to write them. I have such a great time following your recommendations and trying them out. So, merci beaucoup et à bientôt. Wow, can we walk there? Oh, wait, let me check. It's 30 minutes walk, maybe not.